Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Tom McManamon, founder and CEO of Stimulus Communications. How are you doing, Tom? Thank you so much for coming on. Let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey. What made you start your own business? And give us an overview of what your role looks like today at Stimulus Brand Communications.
Happy to. I'm a 45-year veteran in the advertising agency business. I've worked at a couple of large global agencies as a creative director. I helped grow a small agency in Princeton, New Jersey from 1 million to 180 million in annual billings. That kind of environment is always tumultuous because you're growing and you're pitching and you're winning, hopefully, and you're getting more staff in cubicles and offices and all that sort of stuff. Well, we were so successful that the agency was sold, and it was sold, and the deal that we witnessed over cocktails was happening in the South World Trade Tower in New York the night before the towers came down. So we were there, and suddenly the very next morning, the world changed, and not only for everyone in the world, but for me, because we sold our agency. I didn't have a job. And I lost friends, I lost colleagues, I lost a place to work because we were in the towers. And so I really needed to restart my life. And I had so much connection with the top C-suite level of clients and talking and thinking big picture marketing all the time that I decided to start my own small agency. So I went from a global agency to me in my living room with my dog reporting to me, right? And the whole direction was to be about your brand and the foundation of your marketing and the brand positioning. So I've always been a student of and a teacher about brand positioning. I've written 2 books about positioning. I'm doing a third now, public speak. And so it was important to me to always have that foundation for companies that we serve before we talk about the executed elements, right? And so I started it and called it Stimulus Brand Communications. It's now almost 25 years old. I've ridden the wave of high energy, lots of busy clients to when COVID kind of closed the doors on everyone. So I've, really ridden this entrepreneurial wave. We serve clients that are Fortune 500, national organizations around the country, right on down to small and local startups. I love that contrast. We're very big in B2B services. It's not to say we don't do and haven't done consumer goods, but our client list leans more in the B2B, professional services. We're very big in financial services, hospitals and healthcare, real estate, particularly on the commercial real estate side, law firms, even sports marketing and some other fun categories. So it's been a lot of transitions, a very transitional period right now due to a number of things that we're going to talk about. And I operate really small now, just 3 people, a boutique agency, and it keeps us super nimble. And I don't have the need to make the kind of income I once did. I have 3 kids. They're all grown up. They're all gone. I have no more college bills. I have no more mortgage. It's a little bit breezy in that way, right? That's a little bit of my story. You can learn more as we talk, but that's a little bit of my journey.
Some journey, Tom, like from growing a business to be able to for when it's sold to then obviously tragedy with the Twin Towers to then starting again in your own agency in your own living room and then to scale that business and to keep it going for
Yeah.
5 years.
And I've had along the way, a couple of major league medical crises that were freak things. They weren't because I'm otherwise unhealthy. I'm not. But I've had some pretty freak medical crises that no one has had. No one. I'm in the CDC journals, and they really set me back, but they also made me take a fork in the road.
Do you know what I mean? You've had so many different things happen to you. How did you find going from sort of a big commercial business like you were doing before and then to starting your own business?
Well, I was thrown into it. I still say 25 years later, I'm a reluctant entrepreneur. And, when you're thrown into it, you just survive. You tread water, right? I knew clients. I knew how to develop business. I knew how to pitch as if I were a 100-person agency. I had one major national client come with me. So that was good. That was a nice base. And I did the typical thing when a small company forms itself. I went out and got the restaurant. I got the car dealership. I got the locals, and I just built from there.
Having The skills, like you said, then to be able to pitch as a smaller agency, but pitch as if you're a bigger agency, I think is a
Yeah, in
key
fact,
skill.
one of the biggest clients that we landed was Prudential Financial Services out of their Newark, New Jersey office. It was their mortgage financing arm of their business. And I was perceived by them of being a big agency because of the decks and the proposals that I sent along. And then they realized he's not, but the nimbleness and tightness of what I was all about was an advantage to them because we got things done quick. They knew who they were talking to. They knew who was doing the work, and that was a 8-year relationship.
So you speak, obviously, it's in your name as well about branding a lot, and I feel like a lot of agencies, a lot of companies actually overlook that type of marketing. Do you know what I mean? It sort of like becomes the back on the back burner as opposed to other forms of marketing. Can you tell me a little bit of why you think that's so important?
It's more important now than ever. More companies everything is going so super fast, super fast, and especially with the tidal wave of AI. Everyone is reacting to what they need right now. Most times we get a call from a client or a prospect because they're thinking about an urgency. We need a whole new website, or we need a social media plan because it's awful, or we're so all over the place. Help us. So they're thinking executionally and with some measure of urgency. And I help them take a step back and say, let's talk about the culture of your company. Let's talk about your brand positioning. What is the baseline foundational statement that you could make to anyone if you saw them in the hallway about your company or your products or services? It's so critically important. And, it's reasonable for anyone to, when they hear the word brand, to think of logo and colors and brochures and sweaters and hats and water bottles and all those sort of things. And that's not your brand. Those are just the ways that you put a face on your brand. Your brand has much more to do with what is your unique place, what space do you occupy in the minds and hearts of people that no one else can stand in that space because you occupy that space. And that is the foundation of all your marketing. If you pay attention to that and figure that out, and this is what we do, we help people figure out their brand and how to state it. Then it's easy to make all of your marketing consistent. And when it's consistent and they all lift each other, you get far more out of your money spent in marketing. I love it. I absolutely love branding. And we execute the work. We've done so many logos for major corporations around the world, and all of the executed elements that spin out of that. I love executing the work, but more than anything, I love helping figure out that positioning statement that becomes uniquely yours and no one else's.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like even though some companies do overlook it, but I feel like when branding's done well, you only have to see the logo, hear the positioning, and it makes you feel a certain way about them. Yeah,
There's one
exactly.
right there, people feel a certain way about Starbucks,
Yeah.
whether you like them or not, they have a feeling about it. You can say what you want to say about the taste of Starbucks coffee, but they have a feeling about the brand.
Helps you take up your slice of the market as well. It helps you
Exactly.
actually, bring in the peak. There's a certain cult following or certain people that will like your brand and resonate with your brand that will automatically flow to you as opposed to going to anywhere else.
There's case histories and cases to talk about. The easiest, most universal one for people to get is Nike. And Nike is not about, for the first 2 or 3 years of their existence in the 70s, it was about selling sneakers and tennis gear. And then someone had the bigger, better, brighter, more global idea that we can be relevant to absolutely every person on earth who wants to be somebody, who wants to be able to do something. You can be anybody and do anything that you want to do if you just get off the couch and do it. Just do it. That's where their theme came from. They spawned the entire global culture of fitness and working out, or that a woman can be anything she wants to be. Any handicapped person can still excel at anything because you believe that you can and you just march forward and do it. That is a brand position.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the way they've positioned themselves in the market, I feel like is genius. Do you know what I mean? Like you said,
Yeah.
then to appeal to everybody, to appeal to everybody that has any sort of ambition, to be better than
Yeah.
what they are.
And they have done more to lift humanity
Mhm.
in the world than anybody. And yet they can continue to execute their work fresh and different and unexpected, but all around the same spirit. Spirit is what doesn't change.
So, Tom, just switching gears a little bit, what are the biggest trends that you're seeing inside the market today?
A lot of businesses, like mine, have really struggled in 2025 because it's such a transformational time. Many clients in all industries are tinkering and playing with or trying to figure out how to use AI. So they're delaying work they would normally be doing. They're bringing it in house, so they're letting people on their in-house teams play and tinker or do work,
Mhm.
which is risky because your work can then become mediocre or fragmented or developed and managed by people that weren't trained at first to do it. They didn't grow up in the industry. So
Mhm.
that is a rocky trend that I'm seeing and feeling. The other side of that is AI and how you use it. There's arguments that it's taking away my job, and it is. In many cases, it is completely changing career paths. But, I've written about it. I've spoken with people who speak about it, right? And it's not the enemy. It's a resource and a means of achieving uh, new ideas, new executions. In one respect, it's phenomenal. It's unbelievable. It's exciting. How could they possibly give that back to me? And it's feeds where you can go creatively. In
Mhm.
another respect, it's a tidal wave. It's overwhelming. It's how do you breathe?
Definitely go into what you said then about people bringing it in house, because I feel like people think with AI or a lot of companies, they feel like, well, anybody could use this, anybody could do that. But I feel, if you're it will be different for every single person. So if you are a expert in specific field, then you will be able to you will use it much differently than someone else who's an expert in a completely different field. So no two things, two people using it is going to give the same outcome, because they're going to speak to it differently. They're going to prompt it differently. It is a force multiplier in a sense. If you're just getting the average person in your company that doesn't have any sort, like an intern or an admin person to do that, then you're going to get an admin person return from the AI. Whereas if you have somebody who's a specialty in marketing and branding, they're going to be able to use it, like for yourself, for example, they're going to be able to use it and get out of it something so much different, because you're going to give the inputs that, so their AI will be pulling from a pool of knowledge, not just its pool of knowledge, but your pool of knowledge as well.
Exactly. It has so much to do with the quality of your prompting. What is it you're looking for? How much can you It's like trying to create a great ad campaign. We can't create out of nothing. We need input and content and direction from the client, right? So we have to know how to ask the right questions to get that and lead them, right? It's the same thing with AI. It's the quality of how you prompt what you're looking for will then deliver back something that's relevant. It's real risky to have people that were not trained in marketing mindset and branding mindset, or even in the skill sets, right? To leave the measure of your marketing to that level. But sadly, there's a lot of businesses, I'd say probably most businesses, they don't care. They really don't care. Marketing is not the top thing on their mind when they wake up in the morning. And when things get difficult, it's the first thing that gets tabled or cut. So they think the leadership of a company that's making the call on any work that's created by AI, whether it's a written proposal or medical care, they one might just magically trust it, which is risky,
Mhm.
and two, they don't know what great work is. So when they see okay work, that's pretty great. I love that. It's
Yeah.
amazing that you did that for me, and I can't believe you did that in 2 hours or
Mhm.
10 minutes.
Mhm.
So they don't know the difference until the dust settles, and there's a lot of people whose marketing quality and marketing messaging for their business got nowhere. It
Mhm.
didn't move the needle.
That's where you're going to find where everybody starts sounding the same as well.
Mhm.
Without it's because it's AI. The way way I look at the fundamentals of it is, if you're not giving it the information, the context, the knowledge base to go off, then it's going to, sorry, get the information from the same pool as knowledge as the next person that's using AI. It's how you create, a knowledge base with it, from yourself or from past projects that you've done and all these types of things, for it to actually pull from that, as opposed to pulling from the same general pool that the next company is going to be using. If two companies that are similar and they're prompting it in similar ways and you want the same sort of outcomes, if you, without giving it your specific knowledge base, why you're different and these types of things, and giving it the context for it, the outcomes are going to be the same.
Yeah. Yep,
Mhm.
and, it gets to know you too. The more you use it, it kinda gets to know, you
Mhm.
know the key words and phrases and thoughts and mindset that comes from you versus the
Mm.
guy sitting next to you. Right? We've done a number of projects. I've done a number of things, efforts that I've used different tools and different, elements of AI, and it's been very, very helpful in the process.
Yeah, no, definitely. It can definitely help, with exponentially really when you're trying to like brainstorm things and to pull
Yeah.
information out of you, as well as execution in the sense of, marketing automation, like how brands, when you sign up for something, how many touch points are automated before all these types of things, are really good with it. But when you're just trying to get it to do human things, I suppose, when you're just saying, make me this, make me that, without giving it the complex prompting and things like that, that's where it's going to get very
Yeah,
generic.
like it used to be back when I started, you had say you were gonna do a TV commercial, and you might serve up 5 different approaches, concepts that are a
Mhm,
written script, and, a storyboard,
mhm,
and you go to your creative director, and he cuts it down to 3. So
mhm,
you've put a lot of effort just to do the 5 or 6, right? He cuts it down to 2 or 3, and then you still need to now totally storyboard it and tweak and play with the script, and imagine where you're gonna go with music, etcetera, etcetera. And now we do a lot of video work, client corporate video work. And I prompted specifically what I was thinking conceptually, right on down to some language, some bullet point, key points, the kind of music that I would prefer, but not to be overdriven by music, but to be sort of bed prompted into what I was looking for. And I swear to God, in 5 minutes, like 5 minutes, I got 2 fully edited 60-second long videos. And they had a lot of cliche stock images and pieces of stock footage in it, but it looked, sounded, and felt like a completely done video. And
mhm,
what that did is it helped my client trust it and feel, okay, I get the idea and I see where we're going. And now the conversation becomes more about who you want to have shoot it and the look and the style and the timing, instead of do you even understand the concept?
mhm,
Because before you'd have to ask them to kind of use their imagination to see where you're taking them from a storyboard. And
mhm,
now to them, it looks, sounds, and smells like a cut edited video. And it took me half an hour or more to know what I wanted to input.
mhm.
And it took 5 or 10 minutes to see 2 completely edited examples.
Yeah, I think with the video generating, from text to video, these types of things, I feel like we're seeing it improve, especially over the last sort of 3 to 6 months, and it's going to start improving more and more over the
Exactly.
next sort of 12 to 18 months, as opposed to other things were moving faster before. I feel like over the last 3 to 6 months, you've really seen the video side of it really improve, and it's going to continue to improve because I feel like you get a lot of apart from that, you get a lot from doing that. You'll be able to use that in so many different ways.
Even music.
Mm,
I'm a musician, I'm a drummer, and I've written and produced music, songs from start to finish. And the tools now that enable you to do that are incredible, because I could say, it's a romantic ballad. Here's the lyrics that I want. You have a little room to play with it, but here's the story. I'd like it to sound like Keith Urban.
mhm,
But not have his voice. I'd like it to come in at generally this amount of time. And bam, you get like 5 approaches and you
mhm.
just keep playing with it and before you know it, it's like, my God, it
Yeah.
sounds like a country artist on stage singing this song. Right. And I've done that for, music for commercials too. So now with the AI tools, it just gives you more breadth to play with.
Yeah, no, I have to try that out. I haven't actually sort of
It's pretty cool.
delved into the music, AI music type of thing. But yeah, no, that sounds very interesting and very, very
Yeah, I was writing one last night for Valentine's Day,
uh,
and
good.
I hit
I'll
the
take that
wrong
on board.
button. Well, I deleted it, so now I was so upset I just went right to bed because I didn't save the lyric that I wrote.
It's a good idea, especially with Valentine's Day coming up. I might take
Yeah,
might
right.
take
There
you
you
up.
go.
Thank you
Give
very
it a
much.
try.
So, Tom, what is working well, and where do you feel slight friction at Stimulus brand communications?
What's working well is when I still want to get out and press the flesh, meet people, talk to people, have actual person to person interaction. I'm in a number of major networking groups that might have 60 to 70 or 80 people show up on an online thing, and you decide pretty quickly the 2 or 3 or 4 that you want to have follow-ups with. That's pretty cool, that whole process. But it's up to you to work that kind of networking. And then
Mhm,
you build relationships that way. But still, It's getting together with people in person that moves the dime. It really is. It's still getting together and having actual interaction that still works. Also, clients that we serve love that they see me and I get to do the work. They see me, right? Because I haven't built it to a size where they don't ever see me. It's other people. And then I partner. I chose to build it in such a way that I partner with people. And they're all people that are sharp and smart and experienced, so no one needs to have their hand held, right? We just get to it and we get it quickly. And we've been around the block. So that's what's working. What's really difficult now is business development. It's difficult, right? And I spent so much time in 25 reviewing and interviewing lead generation services. And frankly, because at its heart, I don't trust them. So you have to kind of get down to specifically what you're looking for and then just believe and trust it. Because I've done everything for all my career through relationships and referral. And it's come a time where the referrals are drying up or it just takes too long. Because what I do is a long burn. It's not an immediate need. That's the real challenge. It's business development.
And when you say about lead generation that, you don't really trust it, what part of it don't you trust? Is it like the quality of the leads, or is it also like, where you've built relationships with, with people and that's how you've got business before? Is it like a disconnect from that way?
There is a disconnect, but it's more the model on how to derive leads and the quality of the leads that differs from one group to another. Right? Is it cold calling? Is it based on lineage and history through LinkedIn and Sales Navigator? Is it another approach, right? Through podcasting, right? So, and one works for somebody and another one works for somebody else. It's just what works for you. And then the cost of doing it. I just finally took my head out of the sand and made a decision and went with somebody. And I'm hoping it bears fruit because it has to. It just, to supplement the work that I get from people that I know and meet, and you just need that little boost. So, and we're getting it.
Kind of leads me on to my next question, which was, how do you acquire clients? I'm guessing this is how the new way you're acquiring clients.
Yeah. I mean, it's multiple balls in the air at the same time. It's lead gen, very, very targeted lead gen, by geography, by industry, by specific need. It's marketing groups like an American Marketing Association or Chamber of Commerce in our area. Very, very important to be seen and heard locally. Then I do speaking. So I do maybe 8 to 10 keynotes or sessions in a year. And I do that to build my personal brand and presence. Those are opportunities for me to talk about the company and what we do as a company. And I also do that because it fulfills me. Most of the time, I'm not giving talks that have to do with marketing. They're emotional topics that I speak about. I give one that I've given several times in 2025 on resilience and share some stories, of mine and some others to help people tap into their resilience. And I love giving that. And that's not about marketing or branding, but it does give me a presence and visibility. And then lastly, I have 3 books that I've authored and a 4th that's in the works. So I use those primarily as a giveaway or a topic to launch a conversation.
No, that's good. And especially when you're talking about speaking on stage, book events, writing books, it gives you authority in the space as well. It gives it a sort of a platform for people to actually listen to you and be like, this guy knows what he's talking about, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I had one up in Rhode Island that was supposed to be a coffee chat on stage about the contrast between global marketing and small business, because I've done both, and they thought I would make a good conversationalist about the contrast. But as I was introduced, the person who introduced me mentioned how much I'm all about brand positioning, and I have a couple of books, and someone raised their hand. And we had positioned microphones out in the audience later for Q&A, but she raised her hand and she wanted to know why the tagline for her product doesn't seem to be resonating. And I said, if you were brave enough to stand up and ask that question, I hope you're brave enough to hear the answer in front of everyone. And we talked about it. So it became I instantly helped her get to a new way of looking at your brand position and how to express it. And so the whole session became a live working session about brand positioning. And I loved it. I kind of went with it. I was sort of under pressure, under the gun, like, oh my God, what if I fail here? But I loved it. And, that was really to help people get out from their own brain and think about the customer and how you make them feel and what you want to provide to the customer.
And also it helps when it's fulfilling as well, because it makes you want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
it's a lot more fulfilling than sending emails or having to reply to, LinkedIn
absolutely.
outreach, things like that. This is why it's a good
I mean,
way.
I've done the speaking a lot, and I've trained under some world-renowned group, a husband and wife couple. But every time I speak, even if it's the same one I just did, I still get nervous. It's a
Mhm.
different audience, a different room. You
Yeah.
still get nervous, but that's why you have to prepare and know your stuff, and then be yourself, right?
Mhm.
And I'm so motivated by that work more than even the marketing work.
And like you say, where you want to do it, it comes across in how you're talking and how you're acting on stage. It all comes across because you want to be there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Tom, my last couple of questions is: where do you want to be in terms of business in the next 12 to 18 months?
The next 12 to 18 months, I would like to pick up another 3 clients of, of size who need sort of the breadth of rebranding. What we really specialize in is rebranding companies who, for whatever reason, have come to a new place where they need to take a whole new look at their brand marketing communications. So that usually involves 10 to 15 or 20 different kinds of executional items, from your website, your sales materials, your video work, your advertising, your PR, and we do all of that. So
Mhm.
sometimes that takes a year and a half to 2 years to do. I would like to pick up those kinds of businesses, and I'd like to then, to be honest with you, in you said 18 months, 12 to 18 months, I'd like to be able to sit back and say it's running itself more,
Mhm.
so I can go to the islands
Yeah.
and enjoy more fun stuff.
What would need to happen for for your business to run more without you, I suppose?
More trusted partners to be working with,
Yeah.
either a business partner, or more of the trusted partners who, I got this, Tom, go away. You got it. I got it. We got
Mhm.
it handled. That's what has, I've done a lot of things, bad decisions. We all do, small businesses. One of the smart decisions I made was to build my bullpen, if you will, the people that are really good at what they do. And we just talk. I hardly even ever see them.
Mhm.
And we're talking about web developers, post editing
Mhm.
teams, copywriters, whether you're writing long form PR kind of copy or you're writing conceptual advertising. It's a bank of people that I can turn to. But I would love to, in a more formal way, partner with someone or some people.
So you kind of like, over your years of being in the business, have accumulated experts in their specific field that you can lean on and outsource to at the moment, but it would probably be better if you could sort of bring them in a more formal setting.
Yeah. Or they bring me in,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Either way, but just so that it's for the betterment of the work, not only the betterment of our lives, but of the work too.
yeah, yeah. No, cool, makes sense.
Mhm.
So, Tom,
Mhm.
my last question is: if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be and why?
Why? That I more formally built a broader team around me. What I miss in the big agencies, um, what I don't miss is all the drama and politics and crybabies and the loss and waste of time. Those things I don't miss at all. And when I went on my own, productivity increased tremendously. What I do miss is teams of people to work together, to concept together, to delegate to help them grow. One of my greatest experience as an executive creative director was to surround myself with people that were better than me and orchestrate what they're doing, who they're working with, who's on a pitch, be connected to them as to what drives them and what do they want, right? And I love that part of my career. So, like I said, I was thrust into being a reluctant entrepreneur, and I've
Mhm.
made it work, for my kids, my family, for my career. But I miss those elements.
Definitely, especially like what you said then, there's parts of it you do miss, parts of it you don't miss, do you know what I mean? It's finding that balance, I suppose, and the give and take of moving from one to the other, do you know what I mean? Obviously, like what you said before about having a lot of red tape, do you know what I mean? Among other things, a
Yeah,
big corporation that gets removed, but then also having multiple people, multiple brains, multiple,
yeah,
the points of view, all these type of things, do you know what I mean? Also can
right.
help, can help.
Like, for example, we do work in hospital and healthcare, and I say that side of it because I love the human side of healthcare. I'm not a big fan of seeking and doing pharmaceutical advertising, although we've been hired as a creative team to be like another team that works on pharma work. But I never wanted to go pursue that. And here I was an agency for many years in New Jersey, which is very big in pharma. But as a creative director, I wasn't a big fan of pharma because the creative people working on it, they might get paid well, because they have lots of money, but they don't grow because they're working on one or two things for an entire year in hopes that it makes it to the next stage in FDA, testing. And the work can be very formulaic. You could put your hand over the logo of many pharma products that you see on TV, and it all looks and sounds the same. It's very storytelling. And so I'm not a big fan of that because it doesn't help art directors and writers grow, right? So as a creative director, that's really what I like doing. And then orchestrating who's right for that pitch we're getting on,
Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved this conversation. I love learning, about your journey, especially, do you know what I mean, and up to date, sort of what you're doing now. For my viewers and listeners who want to maybe reach out to you, potentially work with you, where's best to contact you or Stimulus Brand Communications?
The website is stimulusbrand.com. My personal email is tom@stimulusbrand.com. And they can call me directly if they like at 609-457-0161. I love chatting. The initial conversation is free. It's just, let's get to know, what's your issue? What's your, what are you looking for? So yeah, please find me on LinkedIn. I have a totally deep, rich LinkedIn page, as most people today better have, or reach out to me with those contacts.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Please reach out to Tom if it's something that you want to just even have a conversation about your company and how you're going to move forward with branding, marketing, all these types of things. Please like, comment, subscribe, send to a friend, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you again, Tom.
You're welcome, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
No problem.